It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting, either at my website, emailrevealer.com, or you can email me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. If you like our show, be sure and check out our Patreon, because I put up 8 hours of new content each month on Patreon. And I also put a lot of free stuff, too, by the way. I'm about to put up I went to D.C., and I got a whole bunch of photographs of Tony Podesta's art collection that we just happened to stumble on because we were in an art museum over there in D.C. and we were at American University where he donated some art too. And a very creepy collection of art from Tony Podesta that you won't be able to find anywhere online just by searching for it. We got lucky. And I'm going to put that up for free on Patreon, so you can go there and find it for free. And also to our archives you can find for free at Spreaker.com. And if you sign up there for free, there's a chat room, and there's also an email notification anytime I put up new content. And I put an exclusive show on there live every Friday night. And you can find our guest that we have today, Carl Denaro. I might have done 2 interviews with Carl Denaro. It feels like I've known him forever. He was shot at by the son of Sam. Not by David Berkowitz, though, by the son of Sam. And he's just written a book. Last time he was on the show, I kept saying, hey, Carl, write a book. Finally, somebody listened to me. The Son of Sam and Me, The Truth About Why I Wasn't Shot by David Berkowitz. And Carl Denaro has a website about to be launched called carldenaro.com, D-E-N-A-R-O, Carl with a C. .com. And also, too, he's going to be featured in a Netflix documentary series coming out. It should be coming out around May 5th, maybe the middle of May, about the Son of Sam case. Mr. Carl Denaro, are you there?
Yes, Ed. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming back, man. I really appreciate it. And Carl Denaro, by the way, too, he runs the Maury Terry Ultimate Evil Facebook group as well. Everybody intimately involved in the Son of Sam case, congregate and share information. But Carl, tell the audience, who is Carl Denaro?
Well, Ed, I'm 64 years old, proud dad of my daughter Casey. I live in Long Island with my girlfriend Trish, who helped me struggle along with the book. And I guess, last but not least, I was the survivor of the second Son of Sam shooting, and I just, as you earlier said, I just published my first book.
The Son of Sam and Me, The Truth About Why I Wasn't Shot by David Berkowitz. Now, the co-author of this book is Brian Whitney, and it just so happens, I'm looking through his collection of books here on Amazon. How Now, Butterfly? That's one of the, I interviewed Charity Lee. Now we're interviewing Carl Denaro, The Son of Sam and Me. Another one we did was Susan Fenston. You Have a Very Soft Voice. All books co-written by Brian Whitney. And also one of the most famous ones is the one about the raw deal, the untold story of NYPD's Cannibal Cop. I guess that's one of the most popular ones by Brian Whitney. But now he's written. How was working with Brian?
It was fantastic. Brian's, I think his best talent is being able to take the information and make it sound like you're talking. He really did capture. Quite a few people have told me when they read the book, they said, man, it just sounds like me and you sitting at a bar telling your story. So for that. That was Brian hit the nail on the head with that. All around good guy, Brian.
Yeah, and great topics. He's right up our alley. So anybody should check out Brian Whitney, his Amazon page. All topics we cover on this show. Now, in the book, The Son of Sam and Me, The Truth About Why I Wasn't Shot by David Berkowitz. What are we going to find in that book?
Well, I started out writing the book. I wanted to tell my story from my perspective, from leading up to the night I got shot until today. And as I started, I realized that I would have to go, for the uninitiated and for those who read The Ultimate Evil many years ago, I would have to go through each shooting for background, which became problematic for me because I felt like I was rewriting The Ultimate Evil, which I say I believe in the first page of the book. This is not an attempt to rewrite or finish an updated version of The Ultimate Evil. I wanted it to be my story. Mm-hmm. With the Son of Sam, my story, my friendship, or my whole relationship with Maury Terry, which started out as me just a fan reading his book, to meeting him, to working with him or for him, and then with him, and then in the meantime becoming pretty close friends until his death in 2015.
Now, for the audience who's not aware, they've heard of Son of Sam, and now they're hearing about The Ultimate Evil and Maury Terry. Now, who's that? Who is Maury Terry, and what is The Ultimate Evil?
Well, Maury Terry was an investigative journalist, and he started investigating the case, I think, like the day after they arrested Berkowitz, and he just felt that things weren't adding up. The police photos and the stories that were told. So he just started investigating, and it took him, I guess, about 11 years, and he produced The Ultimate Evil. And the book is 675 pages, which was basically lays out the conspiracy theory of the Son of Sam, and that and that David Berkowitz didn't act alone. Unfortunately, over the years, the NYPD and the press really wouldn't buy into it. And no matter how much we spoke about it, and when I say we, I mean myself and Maury, we'd go on TV shows and documentaries, and it just never, they would interview Maury. He would tell his story, and then they would interview an NYPD detective who would refute everything and say Maury doesn't know what he's talking about. So it's been a struggle for a long time. And I'm hoping, I'm hoping that my book at least opens the eyes, if not to law enforcement, at least it opens the eyes of the Americans that will understand that what they've been reading in in the newspapers and seeing on documentaries is not the truth.
Yeah, and Maury Terry's work expanded. He had it wasn't a theory, but his research and his investigative work put the finger on a cult called the Process Church of the Final Judgment, and an offshoot of that cult called the Children, that was based over there in Untermeyer Park, where there's no doubt that Berkowitz had a connection to the people in this cult that were widely known in this cult, and it spans out into the murder of Arliss Perry at the church over there in Stanford College. That we had a guest on our show about that, Mr. McCracken. Hedda Nussbaum was connected with this, with what was that little girl, little Lisa Nussbaum that was abused by her parents. Eitan Pates, Roy Radin, the murder of Roy Radin, and all of that, and even a little bit of Dr. Bruce, Dr. McDonald over there in the Fort Bragg murders. Now, Mr. Denaro, you were firsthand shot by this cult, and you've come to know not just Maury Terry's work, but the other victims and family members and stuff like that. Is there any of the victims that were shot or people who are around this case that don't believe in Maury Terry's version of events?
It's a good question. Unfortunately, most of the survivors do not want to talk about the case for whatever reason. I've actually reached out to most of them, and they didn't even respond to me, except for Judy Placido. I actually became pretty good friends with her, but again, she refuses to talk about the case in public.
What about Tommy Zano? Were you able to get him?
Yeah. Tommy's got an interesting story. I mean, he was an eyewitness. He definitely buys into the conspiracy. At the very least, he saw who shot Stacy Moskowitz and Robert Violante, and he provided his police sketch to the police, and it's definitely not Berkowitz, and he's 100% convinced it wasn't Berkowitz.
Hey, it's funny because I've probably spent about 3 or 4 hours talking to Tommy on the phone or texting back and forth, but he can never find time to come on the show. He can keep me on the phone for an hour, but we can never actually schedule an interview. Yeah, he's a character.
Yeah, he's definitely a New York character without a doubt. I actually tried to get him up here. He's living in Florida, and to get him up here to discuss the case, and it never happened.
It never happened.
A lot of stop and goes, and maybe, and then he came up and he didn't have time to see me, so I'm not really sure. What the backstory to that is, but to answer the original question, yes, he definitely believes that Berkowitz didn't shoot Stacy Moskowitz or Robert Violante.
Now, in your book, do you touch on any of these other cases, like the Hedda Nussbaum story, or Eitan Pates, or Roy Radin?
No. I might mention Roy. Well, actually, I do mention Roy Radin at the end of the book. It's not really a chapter. It's just a couple pages of. I titled it "Cast of Characters," and some of the people that are on this list. So I just give names and then a brief description of what their role in the Son of Sam case is. Some of the people I actually mentioned in the book, but a lot of them I don't even mention in the text of the book. Just Bill Menser is one of the cast of characters, and he's serving time for the murder of Roy Radin. So that's the connection there. But I really don't go into other cases. And as you know, Ed, this Son of Sam story has so many tentacles.
Right.
If I wanted to, I probably could have written, as could have Maury, probably could have written 1,000-word, 1,000-page book. There's just so many twists and turns.
We actually we interviewed Bill Menser's private investigator, Tony Spurl, and somehow Menser happened to get a tape. He got a copy of the show, and so Menser's a big fan of the show. He likes the show, the work we're doing at the Opera Report. I just hope they never let him out, but at least he does like it.
Well, that's good for you.
But you don't want Menser not to like your work. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You interviewed one of his girlfriends too, right?
That's right, I did. Yeah, I'm a little suspect of her. I did interview someone who.
I was very suspect.
Yeah. She seemed to be reciting some written.
Who knows what the real truth is? But one thing I do know, he's not an altar boy.
Exactly, and definitely a hitman there for sure. Now, also too, you were involved in an upcoming Netflix documentary. All right, what can you tell us about that?
Well, it's going to be a 4-hour documentary. I believe they're doing 1-hour episodes, as you said, on Netflix. Josh Seaman wrote and directed it. Now, Josh is probably best known for his film Cropsey. You know, he did that documentary on the strange happenings in the old Willowbrook Institution in Staten Island. Before Maury's death, he basically turned over his intellectual property to Josh. He didn't sell it to him. He gave it to him with the purpose of doing a documentary and possibly a movie based on the Ultimate Evil.
Yeah, I would encourage people to check out Cropsey. It's about the story of Andre Rand on Staten Island, who was accused, actually was convicted of murdering some young children over there with very circumstantial evidence, very suspicious circumstances. Like you said, he was down there at Willowbrook in those tunnels underneath Willowbrook, and there's a Process Church connection to that too, because the Grimson, the head of the Process Church, at least the male head, lived on Staten Island around that time. And if you watch the film Cropsey by Josh Zeman, you'll find some detectives, NYP detectives, who are very interested in the connection between the Process Church and Andre Rand over there too as well. So, excellent film, Cropsey.
Earlier I mentioned that the NYPD, for years have, refuted the conspiracy aspect of the Son of Sam case. But I do want to say that off the record, I've personally spoken to over 20 detectives in the NYPD who worked on the case, who have told me privately that other people were involved, but none of them are willing to say that in public.
Yeah, it's
which
the official.
Is a shame, but I understand why.
Yeah, it's only the official version of NYPD and the Queens prosecutor and these different prosecutors who dismiss Terry's work. And usually, like you said, I had a detective on the show who was pulled off the case. I was looking into the Eitan Pate's connection to all this. Yeah. Does your book get into Roy Cohn?
No.
Okay.
No. Like I said, I know, I know of Roy Cohn's supposedly, connection to the case, but I really wanted to, write a story about, my journey, dealing with the Son of Sam and my relationship with Maury Terry, and the third reason, to let everyone know, about the conspiracy angle of this story. I probably could write 3 or 4 chapters on Roy Cohn and his connection to the whole satanic worshiping, pedophilia, drug dealing.
Yeah, I've done a whole series of shows recently with Richard Kerr, a young man in Ireland who was molested by Roy Cohn, involving the Concora School for Boys and all kinds of sex trafficking and intelligence operations going on there in Ireland that Cohen was up to his neck in. People should check that out on Spreaker. Now, what about you? Get into the whole connection of Studio 54 and this cult and this group.
Yeah, well, it's the timeline matches. Supposedly, Michael Carr was a frequent visitor of Studio 54, and we all know the story behind Studio 54 with the crazy sex parties and all the drugs that were going in and out of the club. I don't talk about Studio 54 again because it was the only connection that I'm aware of is that one of the Carr brothers frequented the place. But I always like to say, bad people hang out with bad people. So it's not much of a stretch. A cult based in Yonkers. The Process Church at headquarters in Manhattan. Studio 54 is in Manhattan. There's certainly a lot of connections, but that's maybe my next book.
Yeah, and there's plenty of room for more books on this topic. Now, why don't you tell us about your relationship with Maury Terry?
Well, Maury. Like I said, I read his book and was fascinated, by the whole story, because that was, my second piece of evidence that I got, saying that other people were involved. The first one being when I went to court for a civil case against David Berkowitz. So all the victims were there, and we're basically there to decide percentages if a movie or any money was made by David Berkowitz. And Harry Lipzig, who wasn't my lawyer, but he did defend or represented two other victims, kept saying, other people are involved, to the judge. And the judge says, well, not now, Harry, not now. So I asked my lawyer, and he said, Harry thinks other people were involved. So that was in 1980. Maury's book came out in 87. And, so I was like, I already had an indication that this was going on. Then I read Maury's book, and that kind of solidified it. I eventually met Maury. We did a TV show, a Geraldo Rivera show, in the early 90s. And, I met him at Kennedy's Bar on 57th Street. And, and the limo was going to pick us up to bring us to the station in New Jersey. And Maury and I hit it off. And by the time we got into the limo, we were like best friends. And we decided to, stay in touch. And, back then he didn't have a cell phone or a computer. And, so we started talking on the phone. And when I told him that I have access, I had, access to the internet, he was like, great. He goes, could you do, some research for me? So he started sending me or calling me and telling me, give me a name or an address. And he wouldn't really tell me why, which was probably best. And I would do my searches and then send him whatever information I could find. And every now and then I would hit on something. He said, oh, that's great. And then he'd tell me how it connected to the case. So that went on for like 6 years. He eventually got his own computer. And at that point, we kind of became, I'd like to think we became peers in the investigation. I mean, he had already laid all the groundwork down. But there was still a lot of questions that we were investigating. And, and we used to meet once a month at Kennedy's on a Friday night. And we continued doing that until 2010 when Kennedy's closed. And unfortunately, at that point, I don't think they're related, but at that point, 2010, Maury kind of became a hermit. He barely left his apartment. He was still active investigating. And in 2012, we started the Facebook group that you mentioned earlier, the official Maury Terry, Ultimate Evil, Son of Sam, and Beyond group. He was very active in that, but he wouldn't come out of the house. And I offered to take him out to lunch. I said, I'll come to your apartment, and he wanted no part of it. And unfortunately, I guess he had congestive heart failure, and that's what eventually killed him in 2015. So I guess the last couple of years of his life were not easy for him.
2015? Was it really that long ago?
Yeah.
It feels like,
10th, if I'm not mistaken, yeah. Yeah.
But even the way he ran the Maury Terry page on Facebook was odd. Like he didn't post under his own name, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I can. That actually, it's an interesting story. He wanted to do it, and I told him. I said, Facebook is not the vehicle you want to use. I said, because anyone can go on. You can't vet people. And he's like, no, that's where we're going to do it. And if you know Maury, once Maury had an idea, you weren't changing his mind. So he asked me if I would be the administrator, and I told him, I said, I can't devote that much time, but I certainly will help. So he got this other guy, a childhood friend, Charles Richards, and Charles and I were the co-administrators. And yeah, the vetting process, I'll be honest with you, it was not good. Basically Charles would make you friend him on Facebook, and then he would let you in the group. And we had a lot of arguments over that because if you probably know this, Ed, we had a few purges because we found some undesirables in the group, basically process and cult sympathizers, and yeah, so it's like we're giving out this information that we're giving it to the wrong people. So we purged quite a few people, but as you know, with Facebook, you can just make up a profile and make up a name, and you're in. So I've been very reluctant to let anyone in the group in the last 5 years, because of that. Yeah, and Charles has kind of disbanded his role as administrator.
Now, it's interesting because when Charles was running the group, too, as well, he was using a fake name, and he was pretending to be a former FBI agent. Right? What was all that about? Do we know?
God, Ed, I hate having secrets. Yes, he was using a fake name. No, he isn't an FBI agent.
Right.
But I'm not going to tell you his real name.
Oh no, that's fine. I think I know his real name. But the thing is, too, is but also Maury too as well would not post under his own name. He was using a pseudonym on there as well.
Yeah, and that here's the funny part of the story. This woman called Trudy Zeke,
right,
from San Antonio, was a member, and when anyone in the group asked a question or questioned anything, Trudy Zeke would respond literally within seconds with a litany of information, street addresses, names. And I said, this is crazy. So 3 times I questioned Maury. I said, I don't trust this person. It's like, she knows too much, and apparently I'm very naive. And he's like, no, she's legitimate. She's she's like a private investigator, and I'm a good, at this point, I'm a very good internet researcher, and I can't find nothing on this lady. So, like I said, 3 times I questioned him, and the third time I said, you know what, Maury? I said, I think you're Trudy Zeke. He goes, nah, get out of here. That's crazy. Well, guess what? Push comes to shove. At his funeral, Charles Richards says, you do know that Trudy was Maury. And it's like, no, I suspected it, but I didn't know it. And that was the beginning of, which I do go through in the book, that was the beginning of, I don't know if I want to use the word betrayal, but for lack of a better term, I'll say, that was the beginning of my, Maury's betrayal to me. Not even telling me that he was Trudy Zeke. And apparently he was using Trudy Zeke for many years because in subsequent searches that I did, I found a couple of posts from Trudy Zeke back in like 2007 on a Yonkers website. So, so this was like one of Maury's little secrets that he didn't share with me, ever.
And then Maury would deliver, I guess, to you or to Charles, almost like a post of clues and stuff like that, or a quiz. It was like, right. And then it would be posted by second person, and then it was just a bizarre way to do things, you know?
It was, and you're not the only one to comment negatively on that, but it really just does go to show Maury's personality, because Maury was the ultimate type A personality, and he had to be in charge, and specifically with the Son of Sam case, that's he felt it was his case, and either he was going to solve it, he was going to write the books, or nobody it was, and that actually that little scenario is covered. I believe it's going to be covered quite extensively in the Netflix show. Did Maury hinder or help the case?
Well, you know what? I can't blame him for that, though. I can't blame him for that. He did all the work. You know, everyone now, you and me were bantering around the name Roy Radin. You know, like there was a time you could Google search for hours and I'd come up with a scrap about Roy Radin. There was nothing on YouTube about Roy Radin when I first started doing my radio show. So now people know it, but it's all came from Maury's work. You can't.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And I believe I believe I start the book out with, regardless of what you read later in the book, I will always be indebted to Maury for doing, spending 11 years researching the case, writing the book, and then keeping the Son of Sam case in the forefront for many, many, many years. And for that, believe me, I'm forever grateful.
Well, then to play devil's advocate, then who can make a case saying that he hindered the solving of the case?
Well, if you believe that David Berkowitz was not the only shooter, then the case is not solved.
Right.
So who was the other shooters? Well, Maury knows. Maury knows at least a few of them, if not all of them. And to go back to the whole secrecy, and the strange way that Maury, ran the Facebook group. That was his MO. A lot of information. After his death, I reached out to a few of the known close associates, the inner circle.
Right.
He used to call us the Pine Street Irregulars, and we started comparing notes, and it didn't take long for all of us to realize that Maury was meting out information to select people, and in some cases opposing information to people. So he would tell me, well, here's the person that shot you, and then he would tell somebody else, this is the person that shot Carl. And we had no idea until after his death, and I started reaching out to these people, and we started comparing notes, and so unfortunately, I think I think a lot of Maury's information might not even be written down. It might have just gone to the grave. But Josh has, believe me, Josh has tons of research work. I haven't been able to go through it all, but I did spend about 3 hours with Josh. And I can tell you, those big binders you see in research, or libraries.
Yeah.
There had to be about 30 of those packed, and then there was boxes all over of other stuff. There was audio tapes of interviews and that he did. So there's a lot of information, and the information might be there. Only time will tell. I kind of wish, between me and you, I kind of wish that, it's cool that he gave the information to Josh so we could make a documentary and possibly a movie. But I would have appreciated if he put it in his will to give me access to it so I could go through it, myself. Unfortunately, he didn't do that. So.
And you said that he was giving out information, but also giving out disinformation.
Yes.
What would motivate him to do that?
Keep you off the track.
Wow.
These are guys like myself who have devoted X amount of years. The one particular guy I'm thinking of, 15 years. He's a retired cop, and 15 years he was, he ran into Maury up in New Rochelle, and they started talking, and they started trading information, and this cop was doing research for Maury, and when I hooked up with him, we compared notes, and it's like, holy mackerel, this is totally different stuff. And we both had emails to prove it, and so we knew, we weren't lying. We actually met at a bar and compared our notes, and it's like, well, here's what I got, and here's what I got, and it's like, wow, it's totally two different people, and and we suspect that if anyone got too close, then he would give them misinformation and to send them off the track, because this one guy got pretty close to identifying somebody, a shooter, and then he said, no, they have nothing to do with this. I don't know where you're going with this. And meanwhile, it was the person. He was spot on. So that's what I meant by did he help or hinder?
It's interesting. I tried to interview an author. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I do get it. It's like you basically devote your whole adult life to a case. I could see where he would say, this is mine. But if he wanted to share information, which was the essence of the Facebook group, it was kind of under false pretenses, because what he really wanted to do was to get 200 or 300 people who were interested in the case to do the research and send it to him. That's kind of what it looks like, after the fact.
I would have done that for free. I would have been happy to do that for free. And I got to tell you, one time I had an interview scheduled. I think with an author about Crispo and Mapplethorpe, and who was a friend of Terry's, and I think he put the squash on. I think he contacted the guy and told him not to talk to me. Okay.
Really?
Yeah. But I don't know. Listen, it was his case. You can't take that away from him,
Yeah. No, without a doubt.
Now, one of the things you talk about here in this book, The Son of Sam and Me, is that you have some correspondence with David Berkowitz. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so about a year ago, somebody contacted me, a born-again woman, and she told me that she was in contact with David Berkowitz, and he would love to talk to you, which is, I don't know, kind of creepy, I guess. It's a good word. It was, it kind of threw me for a loop. But I didn't act on it for a few months, and I thought about it, and I said, what do I got to lose? It's like, if anyone's going to give me any answers, it's going to be Berkowitz. So I said, look, so I just started writing him, and lo and behold, the first letter I wrote him, he answered me in 2 days. And he was, very apologetic, and he was, happy that I reached out to him, and he goes, maybe I can get my story out once and for all. So I my hopes were very high that we would have, some good correspondence. So the first three letters were just kind of very, fluff, just, how's prison life, and, it must be terrible, and it was difficult for me to write it because, I wanted information from them, but on the other hand, I'm rereading the letters, and it's like, people, if anyone reads this, they're going to think I'm trying to be like friends with them, which is kind of bizarre. But as you know, if you want information, you can't go in like a bulldog. So so the letters went back and forth, and some people find them interesting. Well, I'll let the reader decide how interesting they are, but it certainly was bizarre going back and forth with emails with David Berkowitz.
Yeah, and I know what you mean, because I contact people in prison, different cases and stuff, stories, and I'll even put some money, pay some money to them too, just to get on their good side and try and get their attention.
I forgot to mention that. I did that also. Every time I sent them a letter, for those who don't know, they have a relatively new email system for prisoners, and it's a company called JPay, and you register, and I think it's a quarter a letter, and you just buy X amount of quarters, and when you send a letter, if you want, you can leave a quarter for the inmate to respond to you, so it doesn't cost too many money. So I spent that's another thing I can say. I spent $1.50 on David Berkowitz.
Yeah, some cities just made it has to be free. They can't charge for that anymore. Just think how bad.
Really?
Oh yeah, well, just think how horrible it is when you're sitting there, in jail, your loved one. You can't even talk to your own kids. You can't send your own kid an email without being charged for it. My God, just think about that. So, did you get into any of the nuts and bolts with Berkowitz about the cult or about anything like that?
Well, I did. I don't want to, ruin the little surprise there is, but I did. Yeah. I did the last two letters that are in the book. I stopped. Doing the soft pedal and went kind of hard on them, and I named specific names.
Ooh.
I didn't use last names because obviously if I'm correct, these people who I mentioned are definitely involved. I don't know what their exact role is, but I knew he would know. So, and you also have to realize that before a prisoner gets the email, the prison officials look at it, and I guess make sure you're not cooking up some new illegal deal. So I didn't think it would be a good idea to put full names, but Berkowitz knows who I'm talking about, and he basically his response was that his lawyer advised him it's not a good idea to talk about the case, and but he did say in the next paragraph, he did say to be patient, which hope springs eternal, and the fact that he wrote "be patient," I'm hoping that means in the near future he will tell me something. And obviously the book's out, so I can't add anything to the book, but I do continue to communicate with Berkowitz, and believe me, if anything earth-shattering comes up, I will figure out how to get it out to the public, second edition book or whatever.
Or the Opperman report, you bring it right here. Cal,
I'll bring it right to you. There you go.
Yeah.
Why nice to get that.
Yeah. Okay, so that's interesting. He says be patient. Now, you think he's talking about after his death, or he's going to come up with something sooner?
I don't know.
Huh.
I don't know. I'm very familiar with his style because back in the day, Maury used to communicate with him with regular U.S. mail,
right.
And Maury would send a letter, and sometimes it would take 2, 3, 4 months for Berkowitz to respond to him, and a lot of times he would just totally ignore the questions that Maury asked, and then Maury would send another note, and then like 2 weeks later he would get some. Yeah, some of the answers that he asked in the original letter. So, it's a long, drawn-out process to get anything out of Berkowitz. So the good news is, it's email, so it happens a lot quicker. Like I said, he usually responds. For the most part, he's responded to me within between 2 and 10 days.
But now the Christian woman you're describing, I know who you're talking about. Now, she actually goes there and visits him in person, right?
I don't know. She's from the Midwest, so
okay.
I'm not really sure.
Okay, I was under the impression.
Yeah, well, he does have visitors that actually, I think one guy actually moved. Well, he's no longer in Sullivan Correction. He was there for a long time, maybe 20 years. And I think Maury told me that, one of his born again brothers actually moved to Sullivan County so he could visit him on a daily basis. Now he's in Walkill, New York, which is downstate from there. For it's I don't know if you know what Walkill is. It's in Orange County.
No, I'm very familiar. I even tried to interview that minister who runs the evangelist who is in constant communication with Berkowitz, but he wouldn't come on either. But we are out of time. We've been talking to Carl Denaro. The book is called The Son of Sam and Me, The Truth About Why I Wasn't Shot by David Berkowitz. You can find carldenaro.com, and keep an eye out, too, for the Netflix documentary featuring Carl Denaro. Carl, what do you want to leave us with in like a minute?
In a minute. Buy the book, read the book, and hopefully at least you walk away with some renewed interest in doing your own research. Like I said, I'm not doing a hard sell on the conspiracy. I'm telling the reader what I know, and I challenge you to come up with another theory.
Yeah, and I would encourage the audience to go on Spreaker and just Google Opperman, Spreaker, Carl Denaro, and the investigation, stuff like that. We don't want to go over that again, rehash all that, but it's available on the internet if you want to find it, and I'll be repeating it this week too as well. Carl Denaro, thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Ed. You take care of yourself.
Good night.